When I first heard this from Steve, I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what is this?" Like, I was in the the S&P 500 world where it's an average 10% a year, and then he's like, "Yeah, it's like 47% a year." And
47% IRR.
yeah,
Wait. What?
Yeah, it's insane.
3, 2, 1,
Let's ride! Today we have a really special guest, the founder of Let's Ride, who I stole it from years ago, Nolan Borgerson. He's an incredible entrepreneur. He's got 2 different companies right now. Nolan, I don't want to speak for you. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, but yeah, I am a recent father of 2. First of all, I have
Congrats.
7-week-old twins. With my beautiful wife, Corinne, who knows David very well. I recently have become the chief strategy officer of a new company, Stephen Lewis Capital, and I am the senior managing director and head of capital markets for Vitrious Loan Group, which is our second company. But that has all come within the last 18 months, 2 years, so it's been a crazy ride. But here we are now. It's been awesome. It's been really cool. It's not what I thought I would be doing, but I'm very glad I am. Very glad I am.
Amazing. So why don't you just start off telling people about Stephen Lewis Capital or whatever, Virtuous Capital, whatever you want to start with.
Yeah, I can give you a background about how I kind of got into Vitreous and how that led to Stephen Lewis.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the progress, how it happened. But out of college, I went to Boston College, did my MBA there, and I was actually training to try to be an athlete and professional football player. Wasn't good enough. So I said, I'll be the next best thing. I'll be a financial advisor. So out of college, I was a financial advisor for a while. I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. But the thing with that is if you do it for long enough, you're going to retire doing it because your book starts paying for itself. And I just couldn't really, I was like looking out, I was like, do I want to be a financial advisor for 35 years? And I didn't. So I started looking around on Indeed just casually and saw the title Loan Trader for Vitrious Loan Group. No idea what it was. Never been in the debt side of things. Didn't know anything about loans. Never been into real estate or any of that. But the potential income was the highest out of all the jobs listed. So I was like, let's go with that one. And I'm very glad I did. I called them up and started working there about 18 months ago. And really, Vitrious Loan Group is a loan trading desk, right? We act as a intermediary in the secondary market, primarily on the commercial real estate side. So we'll help like middle market banks and credit unions participate out large commercial deals to other banks and credit unions, buying institutions. So we do a lot of participations for like $2 to $20 billion banks and credit unions. And recently kind of got into the non-QM space, the bridge space, DSCR, in kind of a response to what was going on in the commercial market and banks having liquidity issues and not being able to, have money to buy anything. So I kind of started right when Powell decided to, start the interest rate hike. So I probably started in capital markets like at the worst possible time you could. But I think it gave myself and the founders of the company, who I work with very closely, my 3 partners, like the ability to kind of shuck and jive and be agile in the market, which we had to be to survive. Because if we were only going to participate out commercial real estate deals, we weren't going to make it, right? So we did a lot of moving and being agile, which you need to be in a small company, especially because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, it's definition of insanity, right? So we're like, let's try to see what else we can do. So the non-QM market has been a big area of focus for us, specifically like whole loans and helping lenders and life insurance companies and pension funds and family offices, whoever it is, help buy and sell debt. So example, we just did a $50 million DSCR deal between a life insurance company and a lender. We're working in the bridge space in the NPN market's getting big. But all that being said, we still need to focus on, our base of clients who are credit unions and how beautiful they are, and the commercial stuff, which is finally starting to open back up. Liquidity is kind of coming back. But I think we had the foresight of seeing what the Fed was going to do, and how that was all going to work, and started making moves early enough to be able to, get some successful trades done outside of our normal bread and butter. And then all within that happening, create a new company that has nothing
Before
to
you
do
go
with
there,
real-
before
we go there, that's
I gotta stop
a
you
little bit
because
about Vitreous.
It gets really fucking crazy once we get to Stephen Lewis Capital. It is
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a whole nother conversation.
But let me just dive in a little bit for the audience. Noel, what's a DSCR loan?
So you're a big investor, right? So you want to get a rental property and you want to get a loan. Well, what happens is when you go to a traditional bank for a loan and your credit and background, you have 30,000 mortgages, and they're like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
It just gives you, it's a special investor purpose loan specifically for investors where you don't have to, lift up your skirt completely as far as showing, lenders what you got going on.
Instead of doing tax returns and
all
the documents
the
that you need to
traditional
fill
loan,
out
yeah.
with a bank, a DSCR lender is what you call like a what is it? No doc loans, if you
Yes,
will. Yes.
exactly.
And non-QM is pretty much the same thing.
Yep.
It's non-qualified mortgages. You don't have to go crazy filling out documents. The loan gets closed significantly faster.
It does.
And typically rates are just a pip higher, a little bit higher,
a
but
little less stuff to look at, so maybe
Yeah.
a little more risk, so a little higher rates. Which,
exactly.
people like.
Yeah.
Some people.
And it's funny you bring, not to cut you off, but it's funny you bring that up because I know we were talking a little bit prior to this, about what I do and what you do, and you're, I'm on one side and you're on the whole other side. So
Yeah.
for me, right, obviously prior to all these interest rate hikes, I was doing a lot of bank deals, and I still am, but I've seen a major uptick in these DSCR loans,
Yeah.
right? And especially the programs that you guys are offering. It's, you're right when you say it's a slight uptick in some of these rates, right? You're probably looking at, I'd say the typical bank or credit union now is 6, 6.25, 6.5.
Yep.
So you're probably somewhere in the 7s,
Yeah.
set maybe 8s. But
Eights,
I'm
7/8.
yeah, so I'm just curious, like I know what I've been seeing on my side, but I'm curious how it's affecting your side on the securitization and the sell side on the secondary.
Yeah. So when you look at, I think outside of like being a commercial real estate with a 5 to 6 to a DSCR and 7 or 8, it's more about who's looking to buy that type of paper. Where banks and credit unions are looking to buy more commercial, vanilla, 30-year MR, all the normal stuff we see, and that took a big hit because no one has liquidity, right? Liquidity's
Yep.
gone. So that's why that kind of stopped up, where the buyers of a DSCR type paper might be a life co or an asset manager, and they have far more liquidity than the banks and credit unions do for the ultra vanilla CRE deal, right? So that's where we kind of made the pivot to, because we're like, all right, well, who has the money? And a life co has the money, and an asset manager with 13 billion under it has money, and they're looking for this specific type of paper because it has higher returns, and it's still a safe play for a lot of their funds to offer to investors. So I think we kind of just said, all right, well, who has liquidity right now, and what can we offer them, and kind of made that connection between the two.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's really smart. You got to follow the demand.
You gotta follow demand, and it's same thing on like the bridge and the RTL side, which is like, you want to fix and flip a house, and you want $100,000 into it, and you don't have it, you get a 12-month $100,000 loan. And when you look at that as an asset manager, you're like, I can get 12% in 365 days. That's good for the investors too. So the asset manager life co side of things are kind of where the market took us, but still hammering the phones for credit unions and making sure we're taking care of them too, because they built our company.
Got it. No, that's it's super interesting for me to hear, being on like the whole other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a loaded question, but so like for me, right, when I'm looking for new business, new lenders, right, I'm picking up the phone, I'm calling new banks, new credit unions to see are you lending? If so, what are you lending on? Where are you at leverage-wise, rate, this, that, the other? When I'm looking for clients, right, probably the same thing we all do to find new clients. For you, when you're looking for new people or new institutions to buy paper, what's like your go-to strategy to kind of find those new buyers?
Yeah. So in the credit union and bank space, like thankfully 5300s exist, which are like the call reports, so we can kind of see beyond like, you know, what they have on the balance sheet, what they're buying, if they're active in participations, you know, what's big on their balance sheet, what they're looking for. So that's one way. But like when I started, like finding a seller of paper was like the hardest thing in the world. The fact that we had a few big banks, credit unions that were keeping us flush with paper, like people were lining up the door to buy a 103 commercial, like paying a premium for like a 4% rate because of where the 5-year treasury was at, right? So they just look at the spread between the 5-year and the rate. And now, like when I'm reaching out to people, are you active in the market? Yes or no? I say yes. Buyer or seller? Everyone's a seller. So I think because everyone has too many loans in their books, and no one has liquidity. So the buyers and sellers kind of flipped as far as you know, supply and demand. So when we're reaching out to, you know, credit unions and banks, and we do find someone with liquidity who is still buying, we are super focused on those guys and making sure we can do everything we can to, you know, supply them with what we need, because that is now the abnormally, what is that called? The outlier. Yeah. The outlier is the bank who's like, yeah, I'm looking for $20 million of a multifamily deal in these states. So it's difficult to find buyers, but when you do, you have to, you know, really put your focus to them, and kind of do reverse inquiries. Right, this is what these guys are buying. Like, let's go source that paper, and that way we're always keeping them happy, because sometimes we have to turn away sellers. Like we have to. We're like, listen, like I would love to help you, but we're not going to be able to move this because there's no market. And if you want par or par and a quarter, like I'm sorry. Like
it's just not going to happen.
And we're a small company. So like the one thing we probably have struggled with at times is taking on every deal that walks into the door, right? Like we got another seller. Like it was
being like the yes man. You
it
don't
was
want to
the
turn
best
it.
thing ever. I was like, yo, Steve, I just got $200 million of paper. Like this is the best thing ever. And then we look at it and we're like, who's going to buy this? Right.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the C-suite, there's 4 of us, and you know, we really have to be selective now as far as our resources and what we want to do, because we don't want to, you know, do a bad job for someone or not be able to live up to a promise by saying we can do this, and when you can't. So sometimes you just have to say, I'm sorry, like we're not going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that more times than not. They're like, thank you. Like that's good market color.
Have you ever had to, like, because I know there's a lot of people that come to me and be like, hey, you want to partner in this deal? Can you raise the money? And now, you know, I got my hands full, and I'm like, I'm always itching for a great deal, a new deal. But now I'm saying no. I'm saying, I can't.
Sometimes you have to.
I got my hands full. I can't look at deals. And my biggest fear is, what if I don't close because it's my fault, right? Have you ever had to like let a seller down on
more times than I care to admit, for sure? Because when I first started, I was like, I mean, I'm a new guy. I'm working with the founders. They're in the offices next door. I'm like one of the only guys in the office. Everyone else was remote. So like for me, coming into a new company with the 3 founders next to me, I was like, I need to impress these guys and be able to get everything I possibly can.
Right.
And then everyone I got on the phone before, like actually talking to the founders, I should have been like, can we do this? I was like, yeah, we can do that.
Right.
And then, you know, 3 months of phone calls without anyone even sniffing what they were looking for as far as pricing or even putting a bid out there, I had to go back and be like, sorry, like,
right.
Or like, hey, we didn't move this, like shit. And then when they have paper that you can move, they're probably not coming to you. So we had to learn to be like, hey, like if this is what you want to sell, like this is what the market is right now. Like this is what you can get. And if you have that, like I want to be transparent. Vitreous actually means transparent in, I think, Greeks, Latin. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible. Like,
right.
Listen, like this is going to be really tough to move. I'm sorry. Like this is where the market's going to be. And people do appreciate that in the long run, more than saying you can and then you can't.
It's like that transparency and the expectation setting is so freaking important. I just got off the phone with the seller. That's why I have bourbon in my hand. I just got off the phone with my attorney, a seller, and her attorney. And she's telling me all the things that my acquisition manager and my transaction coordinator did wrong, right? and I'm just sitting there, just like, oh my god. And I can't just blame it on people. It's at the end of the day, it's my fault, right? It's my company. So, had my acquisition manager set the right expectations, was transparent, right? And just say no to the deal if we weren't able to get it done, it wouldn't have cost me $5,000 just now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
It's tough to say no, though.
It's tough to say no, especially when you're a new company. Like when you're a new company and or a new employee at a company, like the only thing you want to do is like bring in deals, bring in money.
You want to be
like,
the yes man. You want
wanna
to help everybody.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Best, dude.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I learned quickly that that's sometimes just not the way to do it, because you'll miss opportunities that your attention should have been, because you're trying to move this something that's not possible or very unrealistic. And then, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my career with Vitreous, was spreading my resources too thin or chasing the elephant in the room, like the whale hunting, which
shiny object
which
syndrome.
my partner still yelling at me about, but like doubles and singles win,
yes.
right? They doubles and singles win. So like my founder the other day was like, listen, like if you can do, $3 million a week from a bank or credit union on participations, like there's $100,000, like that's it for a year, like that, and that's not hard to do if you can do it. So I think really focusing on like, hey, like I do want that $100 million DSCR pool to be sold to a life insurance company and make a bunch of money. But when that doesn't happen and you haven't been doing the small stuff or loading your pipeline with stuff that makes sense, then you end up being real upset.
Yeah.
You just closed the whale, though. You just closed a $50 million whale.
Well, they work. It works really well when you have other stuff going on, and that's just gravy on top. Right?
Yeah, because all the small stuff's going to close, right? Like I have $1, $2, $3, $4 million deals that are not constantly, but pretty regularly closing. And like when you get the 20 or 30, $40 million deal, it's great if it closes, awesome. But if not, you still have stuff in the pipeline.
And to anyone who's new in any industry, like that's one of the biggest advice I can give, because I did that and I still do it. To be honest, like sometimes, especially in a market that's hard to get doubles and singles, I'm like, if it's hard, like why don't I go for a home run? But it's just such a smaller win rate, and it's taken me a while to understand that. But once you do, and then that home run, the home runs always happen to hit when you're not really focusing on them, always. And I did like the same thing as a financial advisor. I was like, let me get the guy who has $10 million who can like put with me and do this premium, and then that guy backs out in the last second, and you weren't talking to the 15 people who can give you $10,000 a month or whatever it is, you know. And it always hurts more when those big deals don't close, when you're not focused on the small stuff.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? Have you ever seen the movie Margin Call?
Oh, dude, I should have watched this.
I think I started that a few times and never finished it.
When we were just talking about like the Margin Call is like great movie for anybody listening who has not seen it. Margin Call, awesome movie. Yeah. But us talking about like selling things on the secondary market, it reminds me exactly of that, because they have like a fire sale like right into the movie, and they're selling like $200-300 million securitized packages of like 30-year fixed mortgages at like 40-50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. You should watch it, but it reminds me of this.
The non-performing note market is the
the
amount of people who are now selling non-performing notes. And
are you seeing a huge uptick on that?
Yeah,
dude. Oh no, I got great news for you, my friend. Yeah. I was just at Collective Genius, which is mastermind I go to once a quarter. I hate going. Like the thought of going sucks, but when I go there, I leave making minimum hundreds of thousands of dollars in business. Yeah. So it's always just surprising. But I was with a good buddy of mine. We actually own a property together. We're closing a property in July together. 79 unit in Austin, New York. Great guys, young cats. They dropped out of college at 19, and let me tell you, these guys, I want to call them kids, but they are just monsters.
They're animals.
They're making $2 million in net profit a year on their singles and doubles, right? And then what they do is they said, you know what, I got this business. Jake's running one, asset managing and running the singles and double business. He's like the calm one of the group, right? Yeah. Twins, by the way, for your maybe hopefully your kids do this one day, right? But I love these guys. The Jake is like the calm one. Austin is a wild card. He's a maverick. He's
Yeah.
He's texting me at 1:30 a.m. while I'm in Collective Genius. He's like, money don't sleep, and he's dancing in front of a mirror at the gym, right? I'm like, this guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, nuts.
Then he texts me at 6 a.m. that morning. I'm like, damn, you slept like 4 hours, bro. And he's like, he's texting me like the messages he's got from a seller, like screenshots, and he's building massive rapport where the seller is sending pictures of bears to him, right? I'm like, this guy is the best closer I've ever met.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was sitting with those two at dinner, and Jake was like, listen, I have access to about $50 million right now, and I don't know how to spend this money because my investor is looking for an outsized return. I don't want to make promises I can't keep. And I said, listen, you're gonna probably find those outsized returns in a non-performing note business, right? Loan to own type situations in red states where you're not in a. It doesn't take you 2-3 years to foreclose, right? Sometimes 5 to 10, right?
Yeah.
Like the note package you sent me in New York, they've been trying to foreclose this like 2018, man.
Listen, don't shoot the messenger.
I read the note, I read the table. I was like, oh Lord, I can't take over. This guy's an animal.
Yeah.
But for guys that have liquidity, which I can make an introduction by the way, but he's got a lot of liquidity right now. He's trying to deploy. Are you seeing large multifamily notes, non-performing notes trading below par?
I would say residential packages are more.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Residential are more common, but we just got a commercial tape. There was 2 of them. I mean, that was a $52 million commercial tape, but there was probably 7 loans on it.
Where?
Mostly New York is tough foreclosure state, but there's some Florida, some Texas. Okay. The problem with my company when it comes to the MPN world is that there's like we're an intermediary, right? So like we're they're not our loans and we're not buying the loans. We're just marketing them out for a seller, but there's a definite disconnect between the seller of non-performing notes and people who are looking to buy because the seller doesn't want to hear that the bid's 40. But the bid should be 40.
Yeah.
So, and they're like, oh, I'll just balance sheet it and just keep it. But like, it ends up, there's definitely like, I get pricing expectations from a seller and then I bring it to market and the bids we get back are just like nowhere close. So we have to be honest with both sides, be like, listen, this is what, but the buyers don't care because they're like, all right, we just won't buy it. But the sellers are like, oh, really? Like that was the best bid? And I'm like, that's just what the market's saying. So if for us, it's probably more beneficial for someone who owns the note or is actually buying the note than to be the intermediary between NPN trades.
There's a lot more no's.
Yeah, there's a lot more nodes. If you're like looking to buy, there's a huge opportunities as a buyer of NPNs or as a seller. Probably more as a buyer because you're not getting great bids on the properties, or you gave a loan that defaulted, so that's not great. But there's definitely opportunity there. I would say more on like buying them personally or as a company rather than being on the secondary and trading them as an intermediary. It's tough.
It's funny that you say that you're seeing more residential than commercial. Not funny, but I agree because, and it might just be the people where they're located that I've seen these opportunities from. Like 30% of my whole pipeline is weirdly enough in and around Los Angeles. So a lot of the non-performing notes I've gotten access to recently are all ultra luxury single family homes in like Beverly Hills, West Hollywood. One of my clients is a big 9-digit net worth guy based in LA. He sent me this deal. He was going to buy, I think the existing debt was like $12.5 million. The house is worth 17, and he's supposed to be buying it for like nine and change, which is sick deal if you're this guy. But a lot of that's like right in line with a lot of those types of deals that I've seen. 100%. I don't see too many multifamily.
I want to be a grave dancer, man.
Yeah,
I want to be Sam Zell.
I mean, this is not 2008, but like people, like when interest rates go up, like defaults go up, like this happens. So people, notes become non-performing, and then the lender is stuck with them. And I mean, you've seen history say you now have to sell that for 40 cents on the dollar and swallow your medicine.
But even if you're that guy that don't, right, like you're in default, right? You're trying to sell your note. Say you owe 12, you're going to get 9. All right, you take a $3 million haircut. That house is worth 17. The guy buying it, maybe he sells it for 15 next week. You just made $6 million bucks. You do that 3 times. Like,
dude, I know a guy. I bring him on the podcast. I won't drop a name, but this guy, he's got a crazy story. No,
I know who you're talking about.
He was, he's an immigrant. He comes to this country trying to make $1 for his family. He does tax fraud and bank fraud. Okay, goes to jail for 2 years. Gets out of jail. Recovers, man. It's not when you get hit that determines a man. It's when you get back up.
Yep.
Right? So he gets back up. Now, young guy, dude. He's like in his 40s. 6,000 units with 0 investors.
It's nuts.
Right? And I said, yo, X name. I can't say his name. I'm not gonna say his name. I want you guys to actually come back and listen. I go, listen, how the heck did you do that? Right? He goes, I've been buying non-performing notes.
Yeah.
I've been buying non-performing notes, 70, 80% of par. Mm-hmm. And for guys that par is like what the loan balance is.
Yeah,
right?
1 for 1. It's a $10 million note. You buy it for $10 million.
Quick question for you, because I've been in real estate for I did the math. I did like 40,000 hours of real estate. You know, I've been in real estate a long time, and par I still don't know. Every 3-letter word I kind of know, but par is it loan balance plus like all default interest plus is it everything included, or is it just the original loan balance?
That's a good question. I don't even know the answer to that, honestly.
It's like
because when I hear par too, like par, when a bank quotes me a deal, they give me a quote for debt. Par means 0 origination fee, no points. Like
right.
So
I think it has a different meaning in like every space it's used. But like in the participation world, if pick a credit union, Bethpage Federal Credit Union wants to sell, has $1 million multifamily deal or $10 million. And they're going to keep one and participate out the other 9. And another credit union comes in and says, all right, I want $5 million of that. They are going to pay Bethpage $5 million for that. That's it. So that's a par deal. They're offering $5 million and they pay $5 million.
Got it.
If they're going to pay a 101, they pay 101% of $5 million.
I see.
And then a discount's obviously, if I bid 98, that's 98% of $5 million. So they would get whatever that math is. I'm not good at math. But so par in the participation secondary world, it's whatever the loan balance is or unpaid balance UPB on like a DSCR. That's par. Like penny for penny, I'm paying 1 for 1.
Got it.
103 is 103% of that, so you got to pay a premium.
Yeah. Okay, I completely sidetracked it, but I needed to know.
Sorry, yeah.
So so he's going buying these 80 cents, 70 cents on par.
Yeah, discounted notes.
Whatever world that makes
whatever
sense.
number it is, it's a percentage of 100.
Whether that be the backed interest or whatever. But anyway, he's buying it discounted from the lender. Slightly, but most people are buying it at 40, 50. That's what the buyer market is doing. And instead of foreclosing, right, instead of doing a loan modification, which is basically working out a deal with the lender where they can pay less interest or they owe less money, and then taking that note and selling it because you could repackage that in an attractive way to another note buyer in the secondary, right?
Yeah. Secondary is wild.
It's really is.
Basically, it's the Wild West.
Dude, when I heard about the secondary for the first time, I was like, this is just like you're making money out of thin air. Right? Like, you're taking a loan and you're just chopping it up in a different way. Yeah. But anyway, he buys these notes 80% apart. Instead of doing the loan mod or doing whatever and selling it again and packaging up, he goes to the sponsor, the owner of the property, and says, listen, I'm buying this note, and I don't want to foreclose on you. I've done my research. John, I know you got 2 kids. Twins, Nolan. Twins. And, I don't want to foreclose on you, man. I know it's going to do a lot of damage to you. So instead of you potentially doing bankruptcy and us going into this feud, let's be friends. Let's sit on the same side of the table today. Why don't we just team up? I'll give you 10%. I'll take over the note. I'll give you 10% ownership. And if it's a great deal and I can negotiate a 60% part, I'll give you 20.
Right.
You quit claim deed the property over to me, which means basically just like it's not a sale. You're just transferring a deed over to another owner. Or another entity, and we could just get this thing done.
Who's gonna say no to that?
Yeah. And so it's
better than being foreclosed on.
Yeah. You're like the knight in shining armor for these people.
Yeah.
Dude, when I was doing short sales, man, I was batting 100. Honestly, I'm not gonna say 100. 95% close rate on my appointments. Yeah. Right. I mean, you're helping the owner that's gonna lose his property. What are you gonna do, bro? Let me let you own some of it, my friend.
Nobody else is doing that. Nobody's
one
coming
else
to
is
help
doing
you. Yeah.
So he
100%.
found his riches, massive riches in the niches. 6,000 doors, bro.
It's crazy.
And so I'm like, I'm tired of buying properties direct to owner. I want to find massive riches, just like this guy. I can't even say his name. I'll say his name.
Yeah, massive riches being in niches is I've never heard that, but I appreciate it because like when you talk about Stephen Lewis Capital, which I'm sure
Yeah, I was just gonna say we got to get
that's
to
a
that.
niche right there.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so
All
let's,
right.
Give an intro on Stephen Lewis
All
Capital.
right. So again, when I started at Vitrious Loan Group, we like nerded out on like predicting what Powell was going to do. Like ran like a ton of analytics and was like, all right, this is what's going to happen. This is what the rate will go to. Like this is like we foresaw that capital markets was going to be a bloodbath when it comes to the next 18 months, whatever it was. Like we kind of saw what liquidity was going to do. So I think in any business or, whatever it is, like hedging is very important. And at the time, our CEO was the portfolio manager on the side for a micro fund that I had no idea what it was. Like I would walk into his office and he had like Excel spreadsheets up of like things. I'm like, that's not loans. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm working for the micro fund. Funny enough, he had, the genius idea that the C-suite of the old fund he was working for was winding down and looking to get out. So he came to, the other two founders and myself and was like, let's take this thing over. And I obviously said yes, because I was like, that sounds great, but I had no idea what it was. And we opened up a new company called Stephen Lewis Capital and took over the fund. So we have a track record with my CEO and being the portfolio manager who built the algorithm that ran the fund. But now we own it for the four of ourselves and, some other partners. But what we do at Stephen Lewis Capital is that we are in the medical imaging receivable world and medical imaging factoring. So what does that mean? We advance money to imaging centers, specifically doing MRIs that are attached to personal injury lawsuits. So you're an MRI center and you're in Texas and all of your patients, a number of them are tied to personal injury lawsuits. When that patient walks in the door, they are not paying for that MRI because it's part of a lawsuit. So as the MRI center, it's against the law not to give them an MRI, so they give them the MRI for free. So an MRI center experiences cash flow when you have enough patients who are part of.
So you're telling me that I'm an MRI center owner, you just got a back injury because you just got ripped sidelined by a car.
Yep.
You went to you're now suing the guy who sidelined you, and you're getting an MRI. You come to my center. I can't say no to you.
No.
And I give you an MRI,
Yeah.
and you're not paying for it.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Because why am I not paying for it? Because I'm part of a lawsuit. So when the lawsuit settles, if I lose, I'll either pay the medical bill or the other party who I win. Hopefully the lawsuit wins, that other side will then pay the receivable. So it's a receivable on the balance sheet.
this is all in the interim, obviously, while the lawsuit is ongoing. Obviously,
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So go home from here. I'm driving. I get hit. I'm suing the other person. My knee's busted up. I go to an MRI center. My first thing my lawyer says is like, we need to know what's going on. So I go to the MRI center. I get an MRI. I'm like, hey, I'm part of this lawsuit. Here's the lawyers, whatever. They have cash flow problems because you're giving MRIs for free. It's a receivable on your balance sheet, so you're hoping it pays off eventually. But for now, you're out of luck. And
How long does it take usually for one of these settlements to settle?
Definitely depends, but I'll get into it as far as how we figure it out. But so we come in and say, hey, MRI center, you have cash flow problems. And they're like, yes, we do. So we'll say we'll solve them and advance money to you on these receivables. So we'll actually advance money on the MRI receivables that are part of the personal injury lawsuit.
What do you mean by like so?
Give them money.
Like they're
Literally
gonna
buy
lend.
them.
They're gonna
Yeah,
lend
on-
against their accounts
Yeah,
You're
receivable.
lending
against-
again.
yeah.
You're buying them or you're lending.
We're
them?
advancing on them. Yeah.
So okay, so I'm an MRI center, David Choi MRI center, right? People come, John comes to me and he's busted his knee up. I said, damn, he's not paying for this.
You got to give me the MRI either way.
Either way.
I find out John's a part of a litigation. He ain't even paid. I hate this guy, right?
And you're like, I need money.
Yeah, but
what's
say you
going
got
on?
say you got 100 of me.
Right. So I give you an MRI, and I got 100 of these MRIs, and now I got like $300,000 worth of people that owe me money,
Correct.
right? And I'm waiting to get these
And you
account
have
receivables.
Employees and rent and payroll
Lord,
and a
that
bunch of
sounds
MRIs.
like horrible. So that I get a call from you, Nolan, and you say, David Troy MRI Center, I'll advance you on your
MRI images.
MRI
your
images.
receivables on your balance sheet that were tied to these lawsuits.
Now,
Okay.
let me ask quick, not to jump in, but are you lending on a percentage of that accounts receivable? Are you giving them like 100%, or is it 75%?
par.
So we advance 20 cents on the dollar
Holy
of the
crap!
bill. Average MRI is $2,500. We advance $500 per scan on average.
How much?
$500 per scan is our average.
You're buying 25 cents a par, 20% of par.
Correct. No one pays $2,500 for an MRI, right? Like the insurance is always a portion of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
As David Troy MRI Center, they're like, okay, great. Like you're giving me $500 a scan. I have 20,000 scans on my receivables page. Like I need that money.
Because you have a cash flow problem.
You
You're
have a
going to
cash
take
flow
it.
problem.
Yeah.
And you don't know if the lawsuit's going to settle. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're never going to get paid for that. Like
In this
you might,
economy, I'm taking that.
you're taking it, right? So we advance on the money, and then so now we own that receivable. So the lawsuit then settles.
Well, you own $2,500 worth of payments.
We
to
own
you.
the actual scan. We own the scan. So when the lawsuit settles, and there's like lien positions on lawsuits that like have to get paid out first by the other side.
Right.
Medical is like top of the line.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that gets paid out first. So they're like, all right, what do I have to pay? All right, he got an MRI. It was $2,500. You know what? I'll give you $900. But hey, we own that over here at Stephen Lewis
Yeah.
Capital.
They're not paying David Choi MRI Center.
No,
They're paying you
'cause
guys.
we
Paying
we
you. I
own
should
the
have
note.
sold it to you for $900.
We own the note. Yeah, well, you needed money. So our average purchase per scan is $500, and our average settlement amount is $900.
Wow.
Or $950. So as an investor, we take our funds from our investors, and we advance on MRIs, scans, the individual scans, and when the lawsuit settles, then we collect the settled amount from the lawyers or insurance companies that have to pay for the
Dude, so you're making what is that? That's pretty close.
Well, if
to
you're
about
buying
double
it-
your money. It's
if
about double
you're
the
double
money.
your. It's,
Yeah.
it's like a 1.819 multiple. Are you How fast do these settle?
Yeah. So great question. So like as an investor, when I first heard this from Steve, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? Like, I was in the S&P 500 world where I was saying, hey, it's an average 10% a year. Like you be in it for 40 years, you're going to retire happy. And then he's like, yeah, it's like 47% a year and
47% IRR.
IRR.
Wait.
Like,
What?
yeah, it's insane.
47?
47.
Well, you got to think, right? If they're
They take me
buying,
out of business,
if they're,
Nolan.
you got to think if they're buying everything at 20 cents on the dollar, right? And you're effectively getting 40,
Yeah.
selling it or getting refunded 40
Right.
cents. You're
And
effectively doubling.
Doubling. And so
But how fast do these settle on average?
100%. So let's say I buy $10 million of scans today.
Okay.
$10 million scans.
Okay.
So now I own $10 million of receivables. In year one, about 55% of those scans have settled. So in year one, I'm $10 million in. I almost have
$10 million back.
$10 million
$9
back.
million
But
back.
that's only on $5 million of the receivables.
Right,
the other
right, right,
$5 million
of course, yeah.
are still in the lawsuit, right?
Right.
So by year two, about 75% of the entire pool has settled.
An additional 25%.
And then by year three, the entire batch should have settled. So in 3 years, you should have
2x multiple.
Yeah, completely do it.
You're doing a 2x multiple in 3 years.
You might not want to air this episode.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
got-
gonna hear this one.
I know.
All right,
Well,
well, what's the default risk here? What's the? Let me dig in here.
So
Hey,
the
try to
reason
take
why
me out
the
of business, Noel.
IRR is high is because like we have tranches, obviously buckets for the hedge fund that you can go in long term, short term. The real money maker for investors is if when that 10 million comes back on the 5 million in year one, we redeploy it into more scans
immediately.
So by end of year two, 50% of that redeployed money is settling, along with 25% of the original scans that you bought. So if you roll the money over,
Compounding.
it's
Is this an evergreen fund you have here?
it's ridiculous.
So if
Is
you're
this like a perpetual fund or
it's an open-ended fund, yeah.
it's open ended? Okay.
It's open-ended. But we
Wow.
have 3 tranches that you can choose from as clawback provisions. Don't want to get
Too
all
much
into the
into
weeds,
the
but
weeds, yeah.
like that's an overview. Now, as investors, you're gonna be like, what's going on here? Like what are we doing?
Yeah,
right?
because if
So-
I'm an investor, right, and I'm like a normal real estate deal, whatever it is, 3 to 5 year play, 7 year play, like if you're looking at this, if I give you $5-10 million bucks, and I'm looking at this like, all right, I want to pull all my money out in 3 years or 5 years, in that
You'll be a
3 to
happy
5,
man.
yeah, in that 3 to 5 years, you're
Yeah, you'll be a very happy man.
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, like people don't like lockout periods, but I'm like, if in my retail world, I was like, if you're putting money every month into the S&P, like you're not going to ask for it in 24 months. Like you're making an investment. So having a lockout of 12 months, I'm like, what are we doing?
12 months is your lockout
The
period?
short period because you can get clawback provision. Don't get into the weeds.
Okay,
But
okay,
There's
okay.
3 different buckets for investors, or you can just roll it over as much as you want until everything's settled.
Let me introduce you to that $50 million fund guy because you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, man? He asked me, he's like, Dave, I want you to get involved in this fund because I know for a fact that you could deploy into good investments.
That's crazy.
And
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry.
it's so like outside the box.
It's
for
niche.
us.
Yeah, riches in the niches.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, to talk about it a little more, like we took it over that from a different fund, and like we were like, let's start raising money. This is too crazy to like. This is insane. But what we did right was we're like, all right, we can offer it to retail investors, friends and family, and start opening it up, or we can like go to the institutional route and see what we can do there. And we went the institutional route first. Because when you get an institutional investor, there's no like hiding behind, like there's no smoke and mirrors. They're doing their due diligence as far as like what their investment is. If they're a $20 billion fund, they're not going to just like give money to you without doing their background checks and running analysis and doing it all. Where, a rich uncle might give you $1 million if you told him, you're opening a restaurant, whatever it is.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're like, why don't we go the institutional route? And that will force us to like have our operations down, to have all our legal docs down, to get everything, our SVP, special purpose vehicle, SPV, like set up, like have the LLC, have everything, our lawyers in check, like have it all done. And it was the worst. Like it was hard because we were trying to raise money from institutional players, and every day was another ask of them, so of us, before they can fund. But that forced us to do all the things that we knew we eventually had to do as far as a fund. And then, we just got our first institutional investor to invest. And now we're opening it up to retail, which is now it's going to be easy because we just did all of the work to get an institutional investor of $20
You did the
billion.
hard part first.
Yeah, like if a $20 billion fund is going to give you a couple $100 million, or not $100 million, like tens of millions of dollars, they're going to make sure.
Yeah, they did their of
Yeah,
course
they're
they
gonna-
did their
they're-
homework.
They're going to make sure.
So
you're
why wouldn't somebody
legit.
else
Yeah.
give you 500,000,
So
250
now
grand? Yeah.
it's going to be much easier of like the process of raising money. This is all. I mean, I was in the retail world, but everyone else was either like in investment banking or in capital markets or real estate. So not a ton of capital raising experience on things. So it was a learning experience, but it was so valuable going the institutional route first because there's
that.
Well, you guys did it the other way around, right?
Yeah,
Like everybody
opposite
starts
way.
with the mom and
Right.
pops, the
Yeah.
friends and family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
smart, dude.
Yeah.
I'm raising money from I'm a couple family offices right now.
Yeah.
Some institutional players, and
Yeah.
they are asking for. They're lifting
Oh,
up my
it's-
skirt
All the
They're
way. They're
prying
taking the
open
skirt
my
off.
It
bunghole.
took us
They
like
are-
it took
they
us like
are-
4 or 5
they are
months.
doing a lot of damage
Yeah.
to me right
Yeah,
now
dude.
because it
It
is
is-
taking up a lot of hours.
I was like, the background checks, this, that, everything, dude.
That's
Everything.
incredible.
Which was great, though. It's great that we have it all done, and they're funding us money.
So-
they're happy
no, it's
and
like
we're
if I
happy.
ask you for X, you got it lined up.
Yeah,
right.
I would
Snap
just
your
send that
finger.
over to
Yeah.
this
The systems
fund.
are built to
Yeah,
give you that
exactly.
information.
So I want to ask you this because you kind of mentioned it before. I think before we started the podcast, you guys started Stephen Lewis somewhat as a hedge.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it'd be kind of valuable for our listeners to hear like what were you hedging and what
Right.
really like pushed you guys to start this.
Totally. So we're in capital markets, which has everything to do with interest rates, liquidity, the economic climate. It's a secondary market, and that has a ton of influence on like what's going on in the economy, right? So when we saw what Powell was doing and the entire situation of liquidity and the economy, we're like, we need to be able to find another revenue stream somehow. And I mean, thankfully, our CEO Steve is like he's like an evil genius, and he wrote this. Yeah,
I love
Dave's
Steve.
He's the best.
Steve's an animal.
Yeah, and they all like my 3 partners are unbelievable. But we were like we need to find another stream, and with this opportunity in the C-suite retiring, we're like this is a non-correlated. Like if the S&P is down 40% tomorrow, like lawsuits are still happening in most. It's
People are still getting in car
It's
accidents.
completely non-correlated to the market.
Wow.
So when the capital markets stink, like and we're struggling to move whatever it is, like we have a business that is completely non-correlated. And I think when you're working in a market, whatever market that is, if all your eggs are in that market and that market's not doing well, you're not going to do it. Like it's going to be hard.
No, let me.
You
ask
guys
you a
are
question.
so not to interrupt. You guys are so diversified,
Have to
like
be.
so diversified that you're kind of not
No.
impenetrable, but
That's what
a lot more bulletproof than a lot of people.
That's the goal. And just to touch on that, like you can't become too spread thin. Like that's also a risk you run.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because if you don't have enough resources, you're gonna not put effort into things you have to.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
you always should find ways and look at ways of like, what if this goes bad? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, how can I make sure if this goes bad, I'm still gonna be.
I'm
okay?
gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let me ask you something. This is my last question of the day.
Okay. Go for it.
Would you have your mother-in-law invest in your fund?
Yes.
Yes.
That was a huge question for me. Like in the beginning of the fund, we were trying to get like all of our checks in a line, and I was like we were just like so eager to like raise capital, and I was like, I was new to it, so I was like coming at it from like a devil's advocate perspective, like to like the partners, and we all kind of we're like, all right, like what about this? Like, what do you mean? What happens here? Like, what happens if this happens? What if a case doesn't settle? Like we asked all those questions, and by asking those questions before like we went out to raise money, we were able to come up with solutions to address those questions. So like if a lawsuit loses, the medical provider has to replace that case with a new case.
Oh, you're putting that in your advanced provisions.
Yeah, so it's protected.
No
it's
way.
protected
Well, because that's most of
principle.
the questions that when you're going to raise money, that's probably the first 5 questions
All
anybody's
right, so
going
what
to
if
ask
the
you.
lawsuit doesn't
What
win?
if this happens?
Yeah,
What if
well,
this
you got a
doesn't
replacement.
happen?
If the
All right, you
lawsuit,
know what? I gotta cut you off because you know what? You're gonna put me out of business. This game is over. Nolan, if the people want to reach you, where can they find you, my brother?
You can call me or text me at my cell, 201-693-2124. Vitrious Loan Group. I guess I should give both emails. If you're looking to move notes or paper, it's N Borgersen, Borgersen at Vitrious Loan Group.
How do you spell Vitreous?
I have to spell everything. Vitreous Loan Group. I'll trust you guys to spell Loan Group. And then Stephen Lewis is just N Borgersen, same spelling at Stephen Lewis.
My man. It was a real pleasure to have you today. Thank you so much, Nolan.
Thank you guys. It was a blast.
Love you, man.
Love you.